Coaching culture is a strategy and it's a business proposition.
Coaching becomes a part of a day-to-day conversation. Leaders feel comfortable to have coaching conversation in their interactions.
A lot of organizations, they are not able to differentiate between a coaching intervention and a coaching culture. First steps when it comes to building a coaching culture.
Building coaching culture is a very, very important step.
And you need to have those support structure, ecosystem, ecology.
And proven return on investment and proven return on expectation, rather than some kind of like they're trying to fix me.
We see coaching as something which is good to have, not as a remedial tool. The ability for organization to really grasp the whole power of coaching multi-folds. End of the day, if we are unlocking the power of team through coaching, this is fantastic.
Kind of scale, like how many percentage of employees have gone through stuff like that?
I think that the market is really to some extent dictating with signals of what's needed or what are the pain points.
People love to have this offering.
But what advice would you give to organizations where some leader wants to implement coaching culture?
So leader has to be really experienced firsthand. He cannot create a culture if he experience coaching secondhand and only learn through books. Because believe me, even after 10 years in the industry, I'm sure you have more experience than me. I still have to explain what is different in coaching and mentoring.
ROI, of course, it's an economic term, and it is about dollars and cents or rupees.
So because coaching is very subjective also.
Absolutely.
I mean, what are the things that should not be done when you want to establish a coaching culture? Getting the coach right is also very important. I think that's an easy way out, Paras.
No. But I think for me, AI is really exciting.
Young people come to the organization that may be their first real job, and they said, and I will have a coach.
What is one single advice you will give to an organization who is starting to build their coaching culture? Hello friends, welcome to the inaugural episode of Grow More podcast, where we delve into transformative power of coaching for individuals as well as organizations. I am Inderjeet Singh, your host and founder of Grow More Avenues. In today's episode, we are going to focus on various aspects of establishing a coaching culture, the do's and don'ts of it, the best practices, what kind of results to expect, etc. I have with me today two distinguished guests for which I feel very honored right now. So first, I have with me Magdalena Mook, the CEO of ICF, the International Coaching Federation, who brings with her wealth of knowledge around global coaching practices and standards. And I have with me Mr. Paras Goyal, the Global Director of Talent Development, BCG, the Boston Consulting Group, who is going to bring with us a lot of insights around how they have established coaching culture in their organization. So with this, I would like to start and welcome both of my guests.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. So let's delve into it straight away by me asking you the first question, which is, what is the importance of having a coaching culture? So let me ask you, Magdalena, first. So what's the importance of having a coaching culture in an organization?
Coaching culture is somewhat newer term in the coaching world even. But we have enough studies already indicating that coaching culture brings a lot of benefits to the organization, to the individuals working in the organization, to the leadership of the organization, and ultimately bringing better results and aligning with strategic objectives of the organization better. So we're talking about outcomes such as better financial performance, greater retention, better attraction, greater agility, building leadership capacity within the organization, and ultimately having people more engaged within the organization and aligning with its strategic objectives. So coaching culture is a strategy and it's a business proposition.
Okay, great. Thank you. Paras, what are your thoughts on that?
I believe there's a difference between when you say having a coaching offering as part of L&D and coaching as part of a culture organization.
Wow.
To me, these are two distinction thing. When I talk about coaching culture, that means over a period of time, coaching becomes a part of a day-to-day conversation. Leaders feel comfortable to have coaching conversation in their interactions. They use this not as one-off intervention. They know how powerful this could be and how it can be used on day-to-day interactions, supporting team members to teams to large culture. So when I say coaching culture, to me, it's a result of a lot of journey that the organization has taken over the last few months to few years.
Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you have brought this distinction. A lot of organizations, they are not able to differentiate between a coaching intervention and a coaching culture.
Sure.
Right? Coaching culture, it seems to is more all pervasive, is a bigger stuff, and coaching intervention is the first one.
Yeah, maybe on that one, intervention, you said, it doesn't click in our culture,
Okay.
because intervention for me is like they're fixing something and we're fixing something, right? So we never ever use this word. I mean, just share
Okay, I appreciate
on a
it.
letter, yeah.
That's nice.
But yeah, I think coaching, the support, coaching offering is something which we are having this on, which is important, I believe, because as usual, I'm just this struck me and I'm sharing with you. I mean, nothing wrong, but yeah, that's how I.
No, that's really, thank you for pointing that out. So it seems today you're going to correct me every
Preface some of the things here.
which is true, because there's a lot of misconception around various words people use,
Right.
and I'm really glad and happy that we can clear a lot of such misconceptions through our episode here. So that means that when an organization starts a coaching culture, the first step obviously is going to be some smaller support related activities, which are some part of L&D calendar and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So what could be the first steps when it comes to building a coaching culture?
Yeah. So Inderjeet, for me, it's like journey, right? And if I talk about our organization, it has evolved a period of time. I remember around 8-9 years back, we have very few offerings on these lines. But we were very clear at the start that although we may go slow, we want to make this as something which people and leaders look up to. So never ever it was seen as a remedial tool. So that narrative was very clear from day one for us, right? And we started with slow. We take, hey, this is an offering which is available. And second is optional. We never enforce leaders to, you have to do it, right? Hey, this is offering on your plate. This is a potential benefit. Do you want to try? And once leaders operate for that, of course, they've seen the benefit. They talk about it in a more environment which encourage more people to try for it. Then, of course, in our organization, people are at the center stage, right? And we truly care about them. And we have this offering for many years now, and I'm glad to let you know that it has really evolved. Okay. And last 10 years, I have personally seen how benefit it has been for leaders for us. If I can just segue on that note, let me share one quick my story, why and how I'm into this
Okay, please go.
role. So I was in BCG and was leading a team of 28 analysts, doing very well in the role. And everything was going fine. And one day my manager said, hey, I believe you need to go to the next level now. I'm all set for it. And he appointed and suggested to have a coaching support structure. And that was really transformative for me personally. So I worked on an area which is how to be more effective in persuading senior stakeholders. And let me tell you, those 5 sessions was really, really powerful for me. And that was one of the keys. And I said, hey, I want to be in this line. I want to make this possible for more and more leaders. So I was given the coach because I was doing well. I was open to that. And of course, that helped me to grow as a leader. And that's a different journey than I took on and I wanted to be, and that I got a lot of support in my organization. But that's the real narrative in there, which really makes a huge difference. And if you get that right, most likely you will see a smoothing journey thereafter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, what Paras said is something very important. Your manager, your boss came and said, why don't you try coaching?
Right.
And what we know from research again is that, I'm talking about research and Euro Boston Consulting Group, it is that the support from the highest level in the organization for the coaching and for the coaching culture, for building coaching culture, is a very, very important step. Without the buy-in from the decision makers in the organization, it's much more difficult to try to build a coaching culture within. So congratulations to your organization for recognizing it and for support from the very beginning, seems like.
I absolutely just want to echo that. I really feel privileged and honored to really have that support structure to start with. And that is really the base through on which coaching culture can flourish. If you have 1 or 2 successes, you're not going to fly beyond 1 year, believe me. But to really have this successful for a period of time, you need to have those support structure, ecosystem, ecology prevailing in the organization to make it happen.
Sure. So that brings up another question. So as I asked, what are the do's and don'ts was a first starting point. You said it should not be pushed as a remedy to something, which is one. I'd like to list it out. And second, there has to be a buy-in. So it's optional. You would try it, works for you, great. Doesn't work for you, doesn't matter, right? Something like that you put it.
Yeah.
But more importantly, what a conversation came to just in a while was that it has to come from top down. The organization must have a buy-in, the leaders, top leaders, right? So I'm going to ask you this: what should make a leader get that buy-in? Why should a leader, top leader, decision makers decide on coaching culture?
Maybe you have global exposure. Happy to hear from you first.
So mine will be a little bit more theoretical,
Yeah.
and we'll go to practical application.
That's very powerful. Data is very powerful. It speaks for itself, all right?
Absolutely.
While it comes from experience of having gone through it, you bring a lot of data, which is powerful. Yeah.
It of course depends on the organization. Often you can imagine that the size of the organization may also dictate how you go about it. Fortunately, right now we have enough research showing the benefit of coaching, the long-term sustainability of coaching culture, and as I mentioned at the beginning, what are the true proven results of having coaching and coaching culture within. Sometimes it has to be the big boss to agree. Sometimes it's your CHRO. Sometimes it's your CFO that needs to buy into that narrative. Oftentimes, if they are willing, and that would be the first test, right?
Yes.
You offer a coaching session to them. And just so instead of only hearing the account of others who benefited, they may see the results for themselves. If you start in a smaller unit, it is so important to measure the impact of coaching, because then, as you said, data is powerful. So you can come back saying, listen, we accomplished this or that, whatever might have been the purpose of coaching. And to build a true coaching culture, it is important that it's not reserved just for the very top level of the organization. If somebody in the organization does not have an access to it, it's not a culture. It's still just an offering for the chosen few. So the support of the high level, the access for many, the belief in coaching, and some good stories to support it. And also what we see is very important is that the coaches, whoever are providing coaching within, externally or internally, are well trained. Are continuing their professional development. And cliche, there is a dedicated budget line for a coach.
Of course.
Very important.
That's there. So that is why, the decision makers have to take a call.
Yeah.
I mean, if they see the value, they will invest, right? They'll
Indeed.
get budget from wherever.
It is an investment. It is an investment rather than nice to have or a cost. It actually is investment with the proven return, and proven return on investment, and proven return on expectation.
Sure.
Yeah, just building on that, I think you have used two words, and that's the real differentiation for me. Whether leaders see this as a cost or investment, right? And that make a huge difference. If they see this as a cost, they want to have the, whatever cost, manage that, slow start, it's fine, doesn't work. The narrative is different. And they see as investment, the narrative is very different. How best we can make it happen.
Right.
What are the best opportunity which is possible, right? And just to build on that, based on my experience, and just to answer your question, right, I believe it also starts from the premise that where do you want to see yourself or your organization to grow, right? Typically, coaching conversation and impact you will see it will start to come in maybe 6 months, 1 year, and long term, right? So having that patience, having that belief that it's going to work is important, right? And of course, the basics like infrastructure, basic budget is also important. Right. A lot of things come together to make it work.
Yeah, and what I would add to it is that you said it's very important that in your organization, coaching was never presented as remedial.
Absolutely.
But it still does have a little bit of that recognition of. So not everybody realizes that coaching is truly a very positive developmental leadership development and professional and personal development tool. So it is important that first not to push it on people, and at the same time to help them maybe shift a little bit their mindset, because in certain culture it's quite unusual that the boss would ask question rather than tell you what to do, especially if you're new to workforce. Younger populations, they are much more familiar with coaching. They're very willing to engage in coaching. But when we're talking about some more seasoned managers, they may have little reluctance because it is such a different way of leading and managing. So it takes time. That's why coaching culture doesn't happen overnight. It takes time that you need to work a little on that mindset as well. So it is received as an opportunity rather than some kind of like they're trying to fix me.
Beautiful. Just one thing coming to my mind in consulting environment, it's very high demand. Of course, we want to deliver the best for the client. And it requires patience, building that culture. Because if I come to you, hey, I have a problem, Inder, you are my manager. Hey, solve for it. The expectations like that.
Yeah.
And even the restricted time that we have, typically everyone is trained, okay, I have done it. Let me share that with you. And that's a typical way of engaging.
Yes.
And very well said, it takes a lot of time, a lot of patience to just see the fruit of how it is helping and supporting our leaders.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. In fact, you guys are sharing so much of information. So as you share something, I thought I'll pick that thread up.
And
then you just like, yes.
Yeah.
And I'll pick that thread up. I don't know what to pick up now. But then I think going where we are, that brings up the elements of coaching culture. The way I see it is, one is that we provide them coaching, one-on-one coaching, but you brought another aspect of how leaders or managers can bring coaching in their way of leading and managing.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and obviously coaching culture. So my question to you, Paras, is what are the components of coaching culture? Like, what do you mean by coaching culture? What are the components it has?
Yeah, for me, the coaching culture means leaders at firm, one, believe that coaching is an opportunity, an option beyond mentoring as well. Okay. Second, they are comfortable having those conversations in day-to-day interaction. Third, overall at a organization level, we see coaching as something which is good to have, not as a remedial tool. Right. So the narrative, the way it is looked up is on a very high way. So that's the broad three ideas which comes to mind when I think about coaching culture.
Sure. So I want to go a little more deeper. Sure. Steps by step. You are a coach. I'm a coach. He's a coach. So going in that space. So, so this is great. This is a mindset that the organization and as Magda said, it has to be like organization wide, not like few people doing that stuff. So what are the initiatives an organization should take? So again, I'll come back to one-on-one coaching, training their leaders to be managers as coaches or leaders as coaches,
right?
Or something else.
Sure. So in our example, of course, we have this offering across many offices in BCG. We have this one-on-one coaching. We have group coaching. We have team coaching, which is actually a big component now. Okay. And imagine that if you have all these facets available in the ability for organization to really grasp the whole power of coaching multi-folds. Okay. Right.
Wonderful.
That's
wow.
Nice.
Which really showcase that because see, end of the day, if we are unlocking the power of team through coaching, this is fantastic.
Excellent.
I mean, in consulting world like us, we get the best of the talent in the world, which is possible, right? To really engage them, to really make sure that they're getting together and unlocking together as a team is also equally important.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's really challenging. When you have the best of the people working with you, how do you excite them further?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
In fact, I was running a program for an organization, training their managers on coaching skills. And after the program, that's what they said, that, we got great talent. And when people come to us as a leader or a manager, they expect us to give answers. But then I don't have answers to everything. Now, when I've learned coaching, now I know how I can respond to them.
Absolutely.
So that's really powerful from that point of view.
Absolutely.
So coming back to that, since we're going more into structural side of this, you said one-on-one coaching, group coaching, team coaching, no managers as...
No, we do have managerial coaching, of course.
Okay.
We make sure that managers are comfortable understanding coaching. We may not invest too much in the sense of getting all certified from ICF, for example.
Yeah.
But of course, we make sure that at manager level, they understand what is coaching, what is mentoring, how you can learn the basics.
Wonderful.
And we have the formal training for them. And for team coaching, as I mentioned, this is very, very strong here. And At any point, we are covering our teams in, I won't say 100%, but a lot of ways we are making sure that teams are getting opportunity to learn from team coaching as well. And for example, I sometimes go as a team coach for some case teams. And I've been fortunate to work with more than 100 teams in the last 3 years in the.
Wow.
And just to give a complexity of the situation and depth of what is available. So recently I was working with this team which has 40 in size. There are 10 top leaders and then 10 managers and then 5 partners who are managing the case. And it has 7 nationality team members. It has 5 function team members coming together. So you can imagine all the complexity which is available or possible in such team. And that's where you really know, wow, to really drive this team together and to make sure we are working together as one unit and impacting as best as possible client was really phenomenal. Right? So that's how, a team coach really helps you to really act as a mirror for leaders.
Right.
Hey, are we really focusing the right thing? Hey, are team members feeling comfortable to express themselves freely? Right? What does it mean to have everyone feeling included and safe? So all these things look simple. When you start implementing it, small things add up to make a large difference.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, this is a very, very important component here, and I'm really excited to see what is possible. I have seen what is possible, and I'm always thrilled and excited to see how we are really unlocking team potential together.
Wonderful. So, Magda, to you, what about team coaching globally? How is it? Because this is really amazing. We have heard of one-on-one coaching, which is becoming bigger and bigger, but team coaching becoming that big. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that team coaching will be it. It's becoming it. I mean, there is always going to be a space for individual coaching. There are certain circumstances that would necessitate the one-on-one coaching. But, when coaching first started, of course, it was afforded only to individuals, only top level. And frankly, it was slightly arrogant to think that one person will be able to completely change the nature of the organization. So, but even if you coach the group of individuals, it still has a different impact than coaching the team with the same purpose, the team that you mentioned so many dimensions. Add to it the generations. We have now 7 generations in the same workforce. That's not necessarily an easy thing to work together. There are different styles, there are different desires, there are different, like 9 to 5 versus whatever, right? So team coaching, and we're very proud at ICF to develop the competencies of team coaching, which are in addition to core coaching competencies, and even having the advanced certificate in team coaching. I think team coaching is the answer to many difficulties that organizations are still facing. And while at it, I think that the other part of a continuum of coaching is the leaders using coaching skills. This is something that, they are not coaches per se. As you said, they don't have to be certified. They need to have basic coaching skills so they can hold an important coaching conversation. Of course, manager and leader have different responsibility vis-a-vis their employees. That's why we would not call it coaching, even if sometimes it is a pure coaching session. But yeah, I think team coaching. This is so interesting because I've been with the business for a long time. So I've seen changes and additions, if you will, expansion, I would call it, in a coaching sphere from individual coaching externally only to internal coaching programs, right? Then the leaders using coaching skills, now team coaching. I think that the market is really to some extent dictating with signals of what's needed or what are the pain points that coaching can address.
Absolutely. I think, to be honest, when I was growing as a coach in my journey, right, I did a team coaching program, and my way of looking systematic, less enhanced, multifold.
Yes.
So, in my one-on-one coaching, I found the power of it. Hey, how a one member in the team is linked with all the members. How one voice in the team is actually important to be not ignored too. The systematic lens which I got was phenomenal.
Yes.
Right?
I agree.
And recently, last year, I also found a next level for myself, which was very, very, it was a discovery for me when I did my coaching supervision journey.
Yeah.
So I found a new dimension on top of that. Oh, never really thought about how to really support our coaches from that dimensions.
Very important.
So exciting. So I just can relate with that, how it helps you as a coach, of course. It helps team to grow as well. So it's really fantastic to see how it is shaping up.
Wonderful. Since our episode is focused on building coaching culture, I want to come back to that. But obviously, team coaching is going to be a very important part of it, which you are rightly saying is. So I'd like to ask you, if you can give us how it all started at BCG, what were the first few steps?
Sure.
And maybe we'll draw some conclusions from there.
Sure. As you might know, we are a partnership firm organization globally. So that, of course, one of the good thing about is that, you have room to innovate, right? So certain leadership group, if they believe they want to try this out, we have flexibility and support structure to make it happen. So that is a good part. So the one thing which really worked is that let's go with the innovative approach. Let's try it out, right? So we have flexibility that way is to not get maybe 1,000 approvals and make it happen. So that really worked for us.
Okay.
Second, we are very, very conscious about putting the right thing in place. The narrative is very, very important. So we're extra cautious how you want to position it. So it took us a lot of time to make sure that we see this as an offering and make it happen. And third is to, of course, any consulting firm, we love numbers and analysis. We always thought how we can measure it, how we can showcase the impact of the coaching for leaders. So I think these three things really worked. And believe me, for initial few years, maybe we were growing very small. We may not be expanding that much. So a metaphor which comes to mind is bamboo tree, right? For bamboo tree, you don't see any outcome for many, many months.
Yes.
But all of a sudden you say, wow, it is available to everyone now. Wow, people love to have this offering. We really need to invest in that. All those things start to come up after that. So I think these are the few things to start with we can explore.
Okay. So the message is start, go slow, build some case studies, have some, measure the results, showcase to the rest of the population, organization, and then slowly it'll grow like a bamboo tree.
To some extent, it is to set the expectation,
Absolutely.
right? Absolutely. Because as we said, it doesn't happen overnight, and it's good to have a plan with some milestones, and then you can discuss it with the decision makers about, yes, we accomplished this and we accomplished that, and we're on our way, and you can see the acceleration rather than it's been 3 months. What's going on?
Yeah. If you're expecting something like that, obviously people would ask you it's 3 months. Now.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I'll say, you were fortunate, your organization was like that and you didn't have too many, bureaucracy or too many sanctions to be taken from others. But what advice would you give to organizations where some leader wants to implement coaching culture, wants to start this and is having roadblocks here and there?
Yeah, to be honest, you're right. I mean, what works for us may not work for others. Exactly. This is absolutely fine. But I'm sharing my experience, what has worked for us. And of course, they are learning from that. If I talk about organization who maybe want to start with it, I always believe that we should start with very focused approach and start with the top.
Okay.
I have seen, when leaders are truly seeing the benefit for themselves, and when they share that, there's no alternative to that.
True.
So take it slow, start with the top is something which you'll advise to explore. Okay. Once the leader gets what is possible, because believe me, even after 10 years in the industry, I'm sure you are more experienced than me, I still have to explain what is different in coaching and mentoring. You know that, right?
Yes.
So imagine that if you as a leader, you don't know what is coaching is,
Right.
It is not possible to have the culture.
Right.
So leader has to be really experienced firsthand. He cannot create a culture if he experience coaching secondhand and only learn through books. And because I'm your friend and I have great coaches around, that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have anything to add to it?
It's so true what Paras says about the first-hand experience. You can't replace it with anything else. But sometimes you have to really do a lot of work to get to that point.
Right.
So some of case studies of successful organizations, especially in your own industry, perhaps in your own country, that's powerful. The examples are powerful, and that may, if nothing else, just spark a little interest, little curiosity around coaching and go there.
Yeah. So I have one of my clients. What he does is the CHRO, he invites me, for a talk with the leaders. So he'll, invite everyone from the organization. Anybody can come, understand what coaching is. So he'll call me and there'll be a 2-hour talk on coaching. So there'll be 30, 40 people in the room. I'll tell them what coaching is, educate them. And then he'll say, okay, hey, if anybody wants to get a coach, we are going to provide you a coach. So then every time I do a talk, at least 5 or 6 people get ready to, sign up for a coach.
That's a good approach.
Right.
But make it easy for them in a way, right?
Right.
And one of the challenges that comes to mind is about protecting confidentiality.
Yes.
Right.
Extremely important.
I mean, it sounds simple, but believe me, that is so critical. Yeah. So for example, when we do coaching, right? Of course, manager is aware about that. Your team member is going through a coach, but never ever he or she will say, hey, Paras, what are you doing with him? No, never. That is so certainly the confidentiality part is taken care of. And when that trust is established, then of course, the coach feel comfortable, the real impact will start to come. So again, we use it taken for granted, but we have to make sure that we truly make sure that confidentiality aspect is repeatedly underlined and start. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think as Magda said, that it's all about setting expectations in the beginning.
Yeah, that is
very critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With confidentiality, it is so important, and not just confidentiality, the whole coaching agreement, right?
Yes.
Especially when we're dealing with internal coaching practice, people may think, we don't need this agreement, right? It's internal. Well, actually, there should be an understanding because sometimes, and very appropriately, the manager should at least know what the goals of coaching are, because it's a company sponsoring that particular coaching, right? And they have every right to know the progress with yes, no, that's all, right? And it's again very common practice that the manager, coach, and a client will meet together and just discuss, either because there is some phenomenal breakthrough or because there is some stackiness in a conversation. And especially the client, they need to know what may or will be disclosed with their permission. And it may not be as critical in India, but in many countries, there are laws that actually require a coach to disclose certain things. And otherwise, the coach, him or herself, may get in a serious legal trouble. So that's also important, and especially for a company like yours, the confidentiality of data also lies on a coach as much as on the client.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, boils down to doing it right, setting the expectations, because that is what will inspire trust in the person who's want to get coached.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So if I have to sum up, for someone to start coaching culture, stay focused, start with the leaders, don't show it as a remedy, make it optional.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you spoke about also measure the result.
Yes.
So how did you in your organization measure that? Let's first know that.
So it's a question which is, asked across all ICF forum or otherwise as well.
ROI.
And believe me, there's no foolproof answer yet.
Yeah.
Having said that, yes, I think we always believe that unless we measure it, we can't really find how we'll be. And we do take care of two aspects in one, we collect qualitative feedback, and second, quantitative feedback.
From whom?
From the coachee after the end of engagement. And sometime from managers on the specific goal. As you mentioned, sometime it's a business specific goal they are working on. So how the coachee has grown and shown progress on those coaching goals. But let me underline that, it's a journey. We always said, don't expect anything to really change fundamentally after 3 months. We never ever say that.
True.
Have patience. It will take 6 to 12 months.
Sure.
Right. And again, we are not very rigid about this should be the benchmark, because as you know, coaching is a fluid thing, we really can't make it too tight. Otherwise, it loses a sense of it.
True.
Right. But yes, we do measure the feedback. We do measure how it is impacting the coachee and of course the business. And yes, I mean, I can only say that we are investing more and more over the years. That's a good signal itself that, I mean, why will I invest more? Right.
Right.
So again, those are the things I can say we are doing in terms of the process. And we have clear evidences which highlights how coaching can be impactful. Especially on team coaching, we are very, very rigorous. We have very strong measure how we are doing in terms of teams. We measure weekly to bi-weekly on from every team members. Because it's not about if something is happening right now, I can't and go and change it after 1 month. Team is running the show all the time, right? So if I find something is missing, I immediately have the power to reach out to anyone as a team coach. And even if you are the leader of the team, hey, buddy, this is what team is feeling.
Right.
What do you think is happening? So what I'm trying to say, we do have those measures in place. It is important, but yeah, it is not super tight. But we believe measuring is important, and we, based on organization maturity, what is most important for them to measure, they must think about measuring those impact.
So I'm a little step-by-step guy, right? So I'm going to bring you back to the steps that I want to.
Sure.
So what happens is, I'm running ahead of somebody who's trying to drive coaching culture in my organization. Right. And you said, be focused, start with the top, don't show it as a remedy, and give it optional.
Right.
So now I've done that.
Right.
And then you said, measure the impact and showcase it to the others.
Right.
And to measure the impact, you said you can take a subjective and number-driven feedback, quantifiable feedback from the person who's experienced coaching, right?
Right.
Then how do I showcase that? I mean, do I showcase that to others? I mean, how does that happen?
Yeah. Sure. So we take like every year kind of review, right? How many coaching support we have provided, what the average score has been. For example, we are measuring that, are we focusing on the most important priority? Okay. And second is, I'm talking about team, I will come to individual as well. And second is team level, is team really feeling comfortable to speak up? So these are the two most important KPI for us.
On the scale of
maybe 1 to 10.
1 to 10. Okay.
So, of course, BCG has their own standard. It should be like this.
Let's say 1 to 10, right?
Yeah. And we say, hey, over the last 1 year, across so many teams, these team members felt this. So that's his number which can be shared. Why not?
Yeah, that number can be shared. It's not somebody, individuals sharing the input.
Absolutely. It has to be sanitized, of course. It has to be at function level or team level or group level.
Right.
We never ever share individual number, of course. And second, when you start to measure those numbers speaks themselves. Okay, team members are feeling that they have made the progress, or we are already at a great number and we should keep investing in that offering. So two things will happen from that. So that's the way I'm saying you should be sharing the numbers, talking about it in a consolidated way, which can give a impactful, hopefully showcase the impact which is possible from them.
I think that Paras said something very important. Every measurement tool, that's why there is not a conclusive answer needs to be aligned with the purpose of coaching. You set the goal of coaching, and it could be better communication, it could be better openness, it could be whatever it might be. Your measurement tool has to follow what is the desired outcome of coaching.
Right.
And then you can design it depending on what it is. Say if it is a better communication, you do pre and post.
Absolutely.
You do not only the coachee, but you do their team, right? You ask them, did it change? Sometimes it's reaching the numbers. Sometimes it's just seeing the progress.
Absolutely.
Right. So this is why it's a little esoteric with the and that's why ICF is talking about ROI and ROE, return on expectation or return on engagement. Recently, that term is being used because ROI of course it's an economic term, and it is about dollars and cents or rupees. So.
Yeah, just to add, for example, we think about, right, if we have coaching culture, it has impact on low attrition, high morale.
Absolutely.
We do measure that on a yearly basis, by the way. But we can't say because coaching it is happening.
This is not the only factor.
Exactly. So a lot of things come together to make it possible. Yeah. So, but yes, believe me, every such thing count, and we believe that we should respect that. We really quantify because of coaching, we're having X percentage improvement in our attrition, for example. We can't quantify that. It's not practically possible.
It's not practical.
Yeah. No, see, because coaching is very subjective also. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel that I felt better. You might not have felt better. So very subjective to one person, right?
Right.
So that part I fully agree. And that is where the challenge comes. That's where the challenge comes, because the leadership team. So again, donning the hat of somebody, for the first time, coaching culture in my organization. My leadership team is not even aware of what coaching is. And when I try to show them the numbers, I mean, they are more focused on numbers than subjective element of that.
Yeah. Maybe just one thing, when I talk about this, as a leader, right? I will ask question like, okay, if I ask you, if your team potential is 100, what is your current team outcome according to you? That question really resonates quite well with them.
Okay.
Because I have never ever seen a leader, who will say my team potential is 100 and we are performing at 100. Right. And then they start to engage the discussion. Okay, what do you mean by that? What's really going on there?
Right.
So again, just an idea, which I've really found it working, and people start relating with it more and more.
Yeah, and because you're right, some people care only and exclusively about the numbers. That's it.
Yeah.
And preferably currencies. So, but it is possible. It's not an science necessarily. It's more an art, but very successfully used in a not-for-profit world is to use the proxy.
Yes.
So, for example, you mentioned the retention, greater retention. So you can see the number that we retain 80% of our people versus 70. That 10% difference translates into a actual savings of not spending on recruitment and training. It's a proxy measure, but it is very possible to translate it into the actual money.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, very, very right.
Yeah. So what's becoming clear to me is that, as someone who wants to drive coaching intervention, I must set the expectations that it's going to be over a period of time. It's not just going to be 3 months, 6 months, not only to the coachee, even to the sponsors or the leaders.
Absolutely. For that matter. So do remember that matter for bamboo tree. That's going to help.
So you have to work hard first.
Yeah, to nurture it.
Yeah, nurture happy properly, and then go ahead. I appreciate. So see, I've seen often, most of the time when we want to start doing something, we always speak about what should I do. We rarely speak about what I should not do. I want to focus on that. So what are the learnings? This is some data or other experiences and yours. What are the things that should not be done when you want to establish a coaching culture?
Yeah, I think I will maybe highlight the importance of narrative again here, right? It sounds very simple, but believe me, it will just take few moments to get the narrative wrong. So make sure that the language, each language, what is offering, to whom it is for, how it will be done, why we're doing it, and who are the coaches. So make extra effort in doing that. Do not take it for granted. Right? So that is the biggest thing which I always believe is very, very important.
Okay, that is something one should avoid. Have the narrative right. Don't let it go wrong.
Yes.
And also, I think as a person responsible for designing the program, sometimes you have to say no if the resources offered to you are not sufficient, or if the expectation is not realistic. Yeah. So, for example, you say, to build this culture, we need at least, say, 12 months, and we need X amount of money. And you're told, do it in 6 months and with half of the money. It's not gonna work. So don't set up yourself for failure and the program for failure just because you agree to impossible.
Absolutely.
That it has to be realistic.
That's a very good point, and that reminds me, I was talking to one of the other coach in a other organization, and she was mentioning the challenges which the organization is facing. They have started something 3 years back, and now they are facing challenge to get it continued and get more funding. So I was very curious, what really happened? Of course,
what went wrong there?
Exactly. Yeah. So as that example actually came up, and she said, Paras, when we started, my manager said we must do it. Everyone is doing it. Let's do something about it. And they just got into the whatever. Okay, get coaches and get it done as soon as possible. So they was in rush to make it happen, to impress whatever, I don't know, managers.
No pre-planning, no
planning, and then of course you're running for disaster, right? As you mentioned, right? If you're not ready, don't do it. tell it's going to take 6 months to prepare. Tell it's going to take 12 months to see the ROI.
Right.
Those things are important. And don't just go by the jargon. If everyone is doing it, we have to do it. But what do you mean by it? Do we really need it?
Right.
That's the question we will be asking first. So I think those couple of examples
are important.
are
In fact, that is also the challenge, and I think it goes with the awareness of coaching in the market.
Yes.
So we do get a lot of companies calling us, and we want to get our leaders coached. And when we say, okay, hey, this is a year-long engagement, we don't have a budget. If you can do 6 sessions, they tell us 6 months. I mean, we can't spend more than that.
But then a shortcut to that.
So for us as service providers, it's always a dilemma. Do we let go of the business or not? So
this just to add to that, sometimes also leaders say, okay, Paras, can you do this assessment? And, what do you mean by that? Can that help instead of coaching? So really get clarity what is coaching, how assessment can help or not help, and how the journey will look like. So having that honest discussion will really help. I know some organization we have this much budget, Paras, let's do it. Otherwise we get lapsed.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's do it very well, even if it is getting lapsed. How does it matter?
Yeah. And the other thing is that coaching culture is always good, I say. But coaching not always is the best modality at a given moment. Could be something else. So and we could run a little bit of a danger if any problem is considered to be solvable by coaching. That's not true.
Right.
Or coaching may not be the most effective.
Right.
So this is on the providers to say, you know what, you probably would benefit more from consulting, from mentoring, from plain good old-fashioned training.
Yeah.
That's important.
Very important.
I've had people calling us, hey, we want to fix this guy, help us, coach him. We have heard coaching is a great thing. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it boils down to when I said what should we not do is not plan well. I mean,
Plan well, yeah.
So we should avoid not planning well.
Yes.
And setting the expectations in the right manner. Let the narrative be correct. Otherwise, it can go wrong at any point in time.
Yeah.
Learn to say no. Don't be constrained by the budgets or what others expect. If it's not possible, say it's not possible.
Yeah.
Right. What else?
And that is a coaching question.
Yeah. I knew you are going to pick this up.
I think I'm just recalling.
Okay. What comes to mind to me is that the person in charge. So there is not one person in charge of building coaching culture. There is a person in charge to design the plan, but there is not a person in charge of building coaching culture. Everybody contributes.
Yes.
When it starts, everybody contributes. However, there is like a guardian of the process for sure, and that's important. And that person needs also to take care of themselves.
Yeah. And that reminds me, it's not about, for example, L&D responsibility to make it work.
Right.
Business leader has to equally partner in the process.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes they believe, okay, I have this budget, I have this L&D person, they will do something for us. I think that's also not going to work.
Yeah, I think what's coming to me from this is what you said, the guardian of the entire program.
Yes.
I believe he should be thoroughly aware of what coaching is. Maybe he should be certified as a coach himself before he
helps.
embarks on the journey of setting up a coaching culture. Because otherwise, things can go wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
If nobody in your team, especially the team who is going to start the journey, is not certified as a coach or trained as a coach, then it would be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
It could because they may think with the different criteria in mind, not especially that impatience about like results. Well, that's not how coaching works.
That's true.
Coaching is so, for me, it's like getting present to the silence in the process, right? In the about that.
Yeah.
So if you try to make it more metrics driven, you are losing the essence of it already.
Right.
So have patience. It's going to work. Of course, measure the success, but be flexible in the in the way.
Definitely.
That's, I think, summary which is coming to me.
Yeah, be open to setbacks. Sometimes things may not work. I've heard people saying we tried coaching, it didn't work well, but then they come back again. So that means they're hearing coaching is a buzzword. Yeah, here something is happening. Maybe we did something wrong.
Yeah,
and then they can look at that.
Yeah.
The other aspect which I picked up from what you have mentioned is getting the coach right. right? If you are doing it for the first time and you're just starting, getting the coach right is also very important. Yeah, right? Does that make sense? That's your favorite part, I believe.
Uh, um, there is a technical aspect, and then there is the emotional aspect. I think the technical aspect is which is easily checked, right? Is that person trained? Do we have any recommendations for the person? Can we have some testimonials from previous clients, right? So these are, do they belong to the professional organization? Are they credentialed? These are the technical checks, if you will. The more emotional one is it the level of connection? I know that we in coaching language we often call it chemistry, but I think that may be going a little bit too far. Is that a good connection? Is there the conversation that it's putting the client at ease, right? Do they feel that connection that they can open up? These are important. And I'll give you my personal story. I'm a coaching junkie. I love working with coaches, being coached myself. And I love working with different kinds of coaches to stretch myself, because I'm still friends with my very first coach. And I called her at that one point and I said, Beth, I do have to apologize. She says, for what? I'm like, I was not a very available client. And I wasn't. That was my first coaching experience. And when she tried to take me a little bit deeper, I was like, what do you do? I was not ready for it. So that's also that connection, that there is a preparedness to be coached as much as preparedness to coach. And the deeper you get, the more you may choose a systemic coach. You may choose a coach with certain specific experience that would be useful. So, but there are ways to and there are places, different platforms, including ICF, where you can set your criteria and your expectation, and then of course do have a conversation with a coach. My recent fascination is with this chemistry situation, and it is that we tend to naturally as a human beings navigate and oscillate towards a person similar to us. And there is a nice research being done by Rice University about actually assigning a coach, big no-no in coaching industry, assigning a coach that will be challenging enough rather than becoming your friend, And that's important too.
That's important. When I train coaches, I tell them when you go out to the client, don't tell them you're going to change their life in one session. It's not magical. So even if you're offering them something for free, give them at least 3 sessions, because it's unfair, because in one session they'll make up any opinion about coaching and walk away, right?
Absolutely.
So at least they should get, like you called her after so many years that I was not ready at that time. So people need to be given decent exposure to go through that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, you put in very right words, Magda. I think I don't have to add anything else beyond that, how to choose your coaching.
That's an easy way out, Paras.
No. No, one thing, one thing just want to add, I mean, in our organization, we have but yes, we do have some view about where internal coach can help and where possibly external coach can help. And then we suggest, hey, based on your requirement, we believe you can explore one. Of course, we give them an option, not only one coach. You can explore all these 2 coaching options, have a first session with them and see what resonates with you. So I think that's just a thing, because we have strong options or boutique options available for internal and external coach options.
Yeah, and there is from what you said, I realize there is a misconception around this, and maybe that's true or not. I want to hear your thoughts. If I am a decision maker and I want to hire an external coach, I'll probably look for someone who has had a background that my coachee has, from the same profession or same industry or a similar kind of a space.
Yeah, I think that it is a misconception.
It is.
I do, because a person from the same industry or from the same maybe a person that held similar position, they may have exactly the same blind spots as you do.
Okay.
And may not sometimes, and loosely using the term, not as informed coach can ask questions like a child. Sometimes child asks you the most simple question and it stops you in your tracks.
True.
Right? So and again, it depends on the circumstance, right? Sometimes it is very useful because even if that means that there is this instantaneous credibility, that's important.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is really super important to have somebody who was a CEO, who was a CFO, or who understands, say, the culture. Sometimes it's better to have a coach from India than the coach from some other country because they understand the landscape, right? And at the same time, I don't think it is a prerequisite. I don't think it's a prerequisite.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think, yes, sometimes people are very clear that I want to have a CXO coach who has worked in this kind of setup. So which is fine. There's nothing wrong in that.
No.
However, I found that a leader who has experienced coaching, like at least once, they are open to then exploring someone else as well.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good thought.
Yeah, but initially they may not be very open now. Initially they may not be very open to experiment two different that ways.
True.
But once they get it, I mean, I've seen they are very open then.
Yeah.
They don't
So
really-
first time, it's okay to give
first time,
as you said, it builds a lot of credibility.
really,
Yeah, and that's
for them.
that's
Yeah.
crucial
Yeah, that is
for
important.
the success. Yeah.
The only challenge is that people who come from that space sometimes are not good coaches because they're more
Availability is a challenge. Yeah, I know.
That's the perspective there. But that's fair. Like later they may become open.
Absolutely.
That also brings up interesting perspective that coaching is not a one-time intervention of sorts. Like, you need to provide coaches to your leaders regularly. I mean, and I have seen people who you say, hey, I want to have a coach again. I want to have a coach again.
Mhm.
Like you're still working with the coaches, right?
Sure.
Yourself. Yeah. And that's also one part of setting expectations. Not for the leaders, but for your own self as budget decision makers as well.
Yeah, if you ask me, that I mean, in ideal world, in a corporate, at the time of goal setting process, I want to assign a coach for that leader for 1 year.
Mhm.
That's important. That's the ideal situation.
That's the ideal situation. Of course, it depends on approval and budgets and stuff.
Right.
However, I think what is important, if that is not a possibility, at least when you are preparing leader for the next level or a leader who's just promoted, I think that's a sport on which they can most benefit from.
Yes.
Most benefit from.
Yeah, that's my experience. And I think if at least we can provide that ecosystem of support, I think that can be very, very helpful.
Yeah. It's these are those. I think that this is absolutely natural that a person would want to work with a coach again after a success of a first relationship, right? Sometime later, there is a new challenge or a new opportunity. I completely agree that especially people moving to the next level of responsibility, managerial responsibility and seniority, that is very important to help them be ready and be successful when they enter into that space.
Yeah, just building on that, for example, we at certain level, when leaders are becoming or promoted to X level, like we have this option for them that you can have a coach who's focused on teaming. Yeah, teaming coach, right? So the idea is to focus on how you can become an effective leader in driving your team.
Right.
So when a teaming coach is coming, I think they already know what is the key focus could be. Okay. And it's optional, right? They can choose 1 session, 3 session, or maybe more than that.
Right.
That is another way of, having repeated coaching support structure from a very specific thematic point of view.
Okay, yeah, that.
Yeah, may I add one thing, that what we notice is that when a person goes through the first coaching relationship, then they don't require that long of an engagement. They already understand coaching. They slip into that very quickly.
Very deeply.
So then you probably don't need a year. You perhaps 3 months or 6 months is plenty, especially if there is the focus on very specific issue. Mm-hmm.
It's an easy way of doing it. First time, of course, he or she may not be comfortable. So
yes.
So then you give them some more time so that they, over a period of time, discover. And I've often seen that in the first few sessions, the leaders are, what's this? Do I need this?
Yes.
What's going on?
Them.
Are you adding any value? I don't think you're adding any value. So are you the right coach for me? Are you a big coach for me? And then after 3-4 sessions, they start realizing the power of it.
Yeah. Indeed.
So yeah, that happens. So I'm donning my coach hat on, I'm going to stay with my top question. So the conclusion I'm drawing is that when you want to hire a coach, it's okay if he's from the same background. It helps. But then it can also be driven by the objective you want to achieve. What's a goal the leader wants to work on? And you can explain the leader, like if this is of a goal, then I'm providing this coach. But then for a goal which is more behavior or something, I'm providing a coach who may not be from your industry, because that's going to help you stretch. So it's a good way to explain them as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
And just to add, I mean, always say, hey, have a coach who can challenge you to stretch as well.
That's really important.
As you mentioned, unconscious bias is that, hey, we like people we want to work with.
Yeah.
So I think we always kind of highlight that, hey, are you sure about it?
Exactly. As you point it out to them.
Point it out, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, it can be a choice, of course.
Yeah. Having said that, what I'm feeling is that if I'm the guy who's going to decide, having a coach with a similar background will make my life little easier to start with.
Yeah.
Later, I can probably stretch it
absolutely
a bit. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So the next question that comes to my mind is, so we've been focusing on how to start your coaching culture. I'll not use the word intervention now.
Yeah.
What are the first few steps? No takeaway. You said it right in the very first moment. So for an organization who's going to start building the coaching culture, we have had some discussion. But there are many organizations who are, like you took an example of 3 years, 2 years. They started as a coaching support. They didn't plan well. They had no idea about how to form a coaching culture. Perhaps people didn't have an idea also. Coaching is evolving, as you rightly said, right?
Right.
So what are the thoughts for those people? What advice do you have? They have already experimented some bits of coaching here and there. They have done 10 leaders being coached in last year, 5 this year. How do they formulate? What are the thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I have to share something for them, right, I always suggest to truthfully honest and do a retro about what happened to this support structure which you have provided. What really worked and what did not work.
Okay.
And be honest about it, right? Sometimes the challenge lies that they will not look good on your scorecard or report card.
Right.
If you really be honest without that, what didn't go well, believe me, you will always find some learnings from that. And make sure that next time we start slow again. Learn from the learning, make sure that we are incorporating the best practices, and then try to explore once more. So that's the way I would put it.
Yeah. Without that, unfortunate as it may sound, not every organization will have coaching culture. It's because, as Paras said before, the stars have to align.
Yeah.
There are so many aspects that have to come together to play, and perhaps it's okay that what they continue doing is offering coaching as the available tool, an available service.
Yeah.
And maybe when circumstances change, try again. If you try too hard, you just quite can't go against forces stronger than you can withhold.
A very, very, very good point. I think, let the
keep nurturing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nurturing bamboo.
Yeah, keep doing.
Yeah. So my question was from the point of view that we started randomly, right? But at least now we should put a structure on that. At least now we become more conscious around that, right? And you said that learn from what you've done and then amend as you go. Yes, right? But then now at least plan, put a structure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
How to have a vision of how to build your coaching culture over a period of time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, and there is help, right? There is help on ICF website. It's free of charge. There are reports from we've done with Human Capital Institute on coaching cultures and the steps, the elements. And again, of course, it's like one size does not fit all at all, but at least it gives an idea to a person of what they have to have in mind when they start designing coaching culture.
Okay. Absolutely. I mean, if you have asked this question 10 years back in India, it was very few organizations, very few things were happening.
A lot of data is available now.
Absolutely. We have so many best practices. We have so many examples available. So I think now it is much easier, to really go back and try to work on that.
The idea is that if you are an organization who have had few years of stint with coaching, it's time to go to the drawing board, take some learnings, and plan to build your coaching culture. Right?
We are working right now at ICF at designing a new tool. We'll see how it goes. And it is a kind of evaluation tool. It is I haven't seen it yet. It is supposed to be simple to use, so it's not some very complicated mechanism. But basically, it helps you with answering certain questions. It helps you get almost like a score on where are you in your journey to build coaching culture
As an organization.
And it is supposed to show you the gaps, the possible gaps, and then equipped with that information, an organization can reach out to people like you to say, help us, this is where we are according to this assessment. We would love to
Go there.
be further. So hopefully this year we will have this tool tested at least. And
that will be amazing. Yeah, that's very exciting. People love numbers and data, so that shows, hey, this is where you are.
And it's self-assessment, so there is no judgment there. So yeah, that doesn't have to go on the scorecard.
So my next question comes to scalability. Right? How do you scale coaching in your organization? What are your thoughts? Like you have on that? Do's and don'ts, pros and cons, plus and minus.
So I think what I can share. So in our organization, people are most important. Capability that we need to build in them, and we truly want to care. We really truly want to provide that environment for them. So from our perspective, I think we were very clear. We want to provide as many options as available, and see which one is supporting and keep investing on those things. So in terms of scaling, it has two elements for us. One, whether we need it. And second, how it can help us to grow our business.
Sure.
Okay. If I talk about whether we need it, it's coming from the key premise, people are most important for us, and hence we need to have it. So there was no question around that. Now the idea is to whether it is really making sense for our business to grow as well. On that, of course, once we start to see the outcomes, it is working. As I mentioned, right, we have the best talent available. And when we start to see the benefit of team coaching, we were extraordinarily amazed to see that. And that's why, we maybe one of the best in the world when it comes to really believing it, seeing the value, and keep investing it. So the answer lies is we see it works, we see it is beneficial, and that's how we believe it should continue.
Yeah, I like that. Try with a small batch, see it works, measure the result, and then
expand,
grow it like that.
Pilot it. Experiment with it.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, as an organization, as a culture, right, we are not adverse to experimenting something. So that way, we are fortunate to have that ability to experiment in a safe space, small teams, and see what is coming. If it's not working, it's fine. But at least we have tried it. So I think that way, that ability is really, really helpful for us, which has really expanded in that way.
What I want to also draw from what you said is, while you said is great, is that when you want to scale up, obviously scaling means more number of people going through the whole stuff, right? And you have budgetary constraints and challenges. And so therefore we have the tools like group coaching, team coaching, which would really help. So if you want to scale up, here are the tools.
Yeah.
Go from one-on-one to group to team coaching and all that, right?
Absolutely.
And then I'll be a little maybe controversial, but do think about AI.
He's a coach who's going to challenge us.
Yeah.
Do think about AI.
Yeah.
There are some very good already existing applications that can take a person from level 0 to level 1.
Yeah.
And that prepares them for working with the coach much better, and they come with greater clarity already of their goals and their expectations. So, and that's scale. That's
it shortens your journey to bring them to a level.
Yeah,
absolutely. Maybe I sound distracted and changing from this topic, but I think for me, AI is really exciting. I'm excited to see that because it is actually increasing the pie and availability and people getting more comfortable to try this out.
Yeah. What is so interesting, this is slightly anecdotal, but what we started observing, and we hear it primarily from the developers and the ones that offer those AI solutions, younger people, they maybe, younger millennials, but disease, don't mention alphas, they rather talk to the bot, not to the human person, because they think it's not judgmental, because it's not. And also because they can do it in the middle of the night when they
At any point, where it's day for them.
so this is actually really interesting because the youngsters and they are such a digital nomads, so this is natural for them. And also what we start picking up a little is that the most senior people go to AI as well, because sometimes they're slightly uncomfortable. Even if they have a good level of relationship with the coach, they're still a little uncomfortable bringing some aspects, and that prepares them for that human coach conversation.
Beautiful. That's it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, it is good in a nutshell.
Okay. So that you brought up an interesting point, and this could be our last question, or maybe one or two questions after that. So how has it been? So younger people, the notion is coaching is more for leaders or managers, because in coaching you ask questions, you make them think, and they get some solutions from what they already have. The notion is younger people don't have much experience, so how do you help them leverage on their experience? So how has been your experience with coaching younger people?
So let me clarify that, we are not saying the coaching is available to everyone in BCG. Yeah. Right. So we do, of course, it's an investment. We want to make sure that people who are manager and above are getting benefit from it. Having said that, it's a part of the DNA now. It's a cultural aspect. If I'm a new person in the team and that you are my manager, you have gone through coaching experience or coaching training in some shape and size. So you know how to engage me in a coaching conversation. Okay. And when I experienced that, what happened? I went there in the discussion to get some input from him.
Yeah.
And he's actually helping me to reflect what's going on here.
Right.
Then, what is going on here? So that's where I start to, then you may be telling me, okay, I'm using coaching method, which is fine. So their curiosity is, of course, high, right? So that is something which is visible.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, I think, as you mentioned as well, right? Younger people have their own way of feeling comfortable to express, for example. Right. Gen Z and then Alpha is also coming, right? So they have a very different ways of working and how they would like to be supported for. I mean, we don't have any specific offering for them as such, but yeah, it's given a part of DNA they experience in some shape and size.
What we see is that younger people, as I mentioned, I think earlier, are more familiar with coaching. They know what coaching is. They properly know what coaching is, and they are very willing and eager to engage in coaching. In organizations, we see that onboarding is often done for younger people with the use of coaching. High potentials, and these are typically younger people.
Yeah.
They often are being afforded coaching. In certain markets, US being one, young people come to the organization that may be their first real job, and they said, and I will have a coach, right? When do I start?
Wow.
It's almost a demand, especially when the market was really, really tight. That was like that's not even an ask. It's like a requirement to work with the coach. Of course, again, now oftentimes this is where the use of internal cadre of coaches is very appropriate. To start there, but I think that as we're talking about DNA of the organizations, as we're talking about younger people being very familiar and curious about coaching, as we see younger people becoming coaches, I think that this is also an interesting market situation, because a younger, less experienced coach, quite frankly, is a little bit more affordable than the most experienced coach. And what we hear from younger people is that they would rather work with the younger coach. They have their mentors, they have their managers, which are perhaps a little older and more experienced. For the coach, they would like somebody from their own generation that they don't have to explain things of life. So sometimes the subject of the coaching is less of a business goal, but it's more about fitting into the organization, career pathing, things like that.
That reminds me, one of my friend called me, and he has a son of a 20-year-old, and I want to coach for him. So I have found it very difficult here. Who can be a good coach for understanding that younger pattern? I didn't find any good option that ways, who can understand the same language and be available. So very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what I like from what you said is really amazing. and very motivating for all young coaches out there, relatively younger, because generally people think that a coach should have gray hair. But then now there is a market for people who are younger as coaches as well.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Just absolutely.
With your coaching.
Yeah.
All right. So I think I'm going to ask you one last question and wrap it up for today.
Okay.
And that one last question is, what is one single advice you will give to an organization who is starting to build their coaching culture? But we have discussed all of that. You want to pick from what you have already said is great.
Yeah. So I think I will maybe summarize in saying, be gracefully bold.
Gracefully bold. I
Bold.
like it.
That's
Mhm.
So there's a graceness in the process. Do not underestimate that, and be bold. It's not going to be easy.
Honest.
Honest, yeah. So I think that really summarizes my one advice for them.
Great. Thank you so much. Magda.
Do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. And very much like Paras said, it's don't get discouraged too easily.
Okay.
Because it is a journey, and the journey is never linear. It's always
Yeah.
a little meanders here and there.
Yeah. And my takeaway from this conversation is, look at it like a bamboo tree.
Yes.
So be ready to care, nurture
Yeah.
till it shoots out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, great. So with that, I would like to thank both of you
Thank you.
from deepest level of my heart. Thank you so much for being here. It was pleasure and honor to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. A pleasure. And I know this was not intended, but we should close by bamboo tree something, and
Oh, it's gonna have
Okay. We should have just, had you told me that before,
it was not planned.
So next episode is going to be called Bamboo Tree.
That was
all right.
All right.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.